All right, hello everyone, and happy Monday. I am Naisha, the program manager here with the Holding Space Foundation, and we are going to get started on a wonderful event in honor of Black Breastfeeding Week. So I want to introduce our speaker and our host. We have Jamie Anderson, and she is a highly experienced, I'm talking about highly, over 20 years of experience and dedicated professional with over 15 years of service supporting women and families in birth, breastfeeding, and end-of-life care. As a traditional midwife, Jamie honors the sacred ceremony of birth, supporting prenatal, birth, and postpartum care with a holistic approach deeply rooted in the wisdom of grand midwives. With over 25 apprenticeship hours under the guidance of traditional midwives and NCNMs, Jamie has developed a deep understanding of traditional midwifery care and modern medical practice, ensuring families receive personalized, culturally sensitive care, which I'm so thankful for. And with profound respect of life's sacred transitions, Jamie believes in being a guiding light for the families she serves, meeting them wherever they are emotionally, educationally, and physically, in their communities, homes, or hospitals, and offering holistic, compassionate care every step of the way. Jamie, we're thankful to have you here, and we're going to get started and go from there, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, for sure. Just bear with me. I have to just spotlight both of us, okay? And you as well. Okay, there we go. All right, this is like presenter mode. We're ready for it. All right, everyone. So we are going to get started. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll try to scroll up, moving toward the end. So my first question is, what unique challenges do Black mothers face in breastfeeding and how can these be addressed through community support?
So, the main challenge that I find that moms experience is, or Black moms experience, is access to education, access to support. And I feel that the way that we can, solve those is one, connect with perinatal organizations that will allow moms to come in and have free educations on every topic pertaining to prenatal, pregnancy, breastfeeding education. There are many organizations that are doing it, and it is a big push to support moms in breastfeeding. So, um, connecting with those organizations, doulas, midwives in your community. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, and we'll address, what organizations are available later on. But I love that you shared that because some people don't know it's okay. Okay, it is necessary to reach out to community.
Very,
Yeah.
very.
So thank you for addressing that in a very early point. So how can doulas and lactation consultants collaborate to create support systems for Black breastfeeding mothers? So you're a doula and a lactation consultant. Some people are, they just hold one title, which is obviously necessary, but how can the two come together?
So here's the thing. As a part of my doula training and certification and my journey into midwifery, I was required to take a lactation course. I had no plans to utilize it, I guess, as my main source of everything, but it is needed so much in terms of birth. As soon as someone has a baby, we want them to have experience the golden hour, and that requires the baby to latch. And so it has literally become something that I do every day. I'm actually a part of the Safe Baby, Safe Moms program within a local hospital here. And I see over 30 to 50 moms a week. And as a doula, before I had my training, I always wanted to collaborate or connect with other people like lactation consultants as well as chiropractors because I understand that the journey the baby takes into this realm can be affected by that bony pelvis, and sometimes it affects the breastfeeding process. And so I'm always trying to connect, was always trying to connect with those people that I worked with, closely. The next thing to happen after baby is born is to get the baby fed. And so doulas will tend to kind of like find their person that they feel is like they can always refer people to. And that would be the lactation and vice versa. A lactation consultant will refer a doula client to a doula if they feel that they are like aligned professionally.
I'm so happy that that communication is there, especially for Black. You said in the beginning, Black women, Black mothers. It's like, okay, where's my community? So if you have one person who's ready to connect you, and then it's just hopefully, an effect from there, an abundance of effects in community in that community. All right. So now we're going to talk about families, because we have the mom and sometimes her family may not be there or they don't know what to do. So how can we empower family members and partners to be active supporters in a Black mother's breastfeeding journey?
So for me, when I support families, I support them as a unit, not just the mom and the baby. I support them as a unit. And so I'm very big on having the partner, the spouse, the grandmother, whoever is going to be in direct contact and supporting and sometimes caring for this baby needs to understand the importance of breastfeeding. And I literally saw a family last week, and the mom had excellent colostrum, but the grandmother wanted to feed the baby. This is on the L&D unit while they were in the two-hour waiting period. And the grandmother was like, I don't know why your mommy, I told your mom to give you the bottle. I don't know why she want to give you that, why you want to give you that titty, for the lack of a better word. And I looked at her and I was like, because it's one of the most important things, head starts that you can give your baby. Your baby is born with little holes in their belly. The colostrum comes through and coats those holes and closes them off. And there you have the beginning of their microgut biome. And it's really important that people understand that that's the best head start you can give your baby.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's literally how it is in the household. Exactly what you said. The grandma, like, you don't need this titty. Literally, that's how we speak. Totally understandable. Now, I'm curious, do you now, some family members may be just stereotypical, like, no, you should not breastfeed. Are there any books or any movies or podcasts that you recommend to the family members?
That's a good question. There are so many books. I don't just suggest one. As a matter of fact, I'm a thrifter, and so every time I go to the thrift store, I grab books because I give them as gifts to clients, right? And so, I feel like the Leche League has really good books. The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding, I believe, is one book that I'm really big on. But I think actually, let me just share this my own personal experience with my children. I have 7 children. I breastfed 6 of them. The first one that I breastfed, I had no idea. I didn't have no support. And I ate a whole pack. Well, me and my ex fiance ate a whole pack of Keebler Stripe cookies and a half gallon of milk. So my daughter wouldn't take my breast, and I had no idea what was happening. And so I was like crying. I'm 19 years old. And my ex was like, hey, well, let me taste it. So he tasted my milk. It was pure chocolate milk. And my daughter is 35 years old. She was always a strawberry milk kid. Don't like chocolate milk. Ain't never liked it. And for me, I think that just that made me stop my breastfeeding journey because I didn't know that I could have pumped and dumped. Well, back then, them pumps was like bicycle, putting air in a bicycle tire. Those were old school. So it was a little bit more challenging. But I didn't know that I could have pumped and dumped, and that's something that is needed. People need to know. Okay, you can have a glass of wine. That hard liquor is a whole different thing. But even just knowing how much goes into your milk is very important.
Thank you for sharing that because the pumping and
Mhm.
dumping is not something that a lot of people know until they someone else tells them or they look it up because that's in the hospital. You already know if someone is not there to educate you, you're just going to try to, just figure out your own way. So thank you for being honest and sharing that your own journey. I love that. And I didn't know that fun fact that you have 7 children, so you have babies outside of your own babies. You have babies. Yeah, oh, I'm so happy for you, and I know they are.
I call all of my clients my baby's mother, and I
Yeah.
call their husbands my baby's mother, baby father, and they laugh because that's our relationship. We're very close. I have a lot of repeat clients, so yeah.
I love that. I know that they're happy as well. So we kind of touched on this in case you want to add anything else. And I want to say, Clarissa, I see your question, and we'll get it at the end for sure. So, what are the most effective ways to educate and involve the broader community in supporting Black breastfeeding mothers? So, let's say someone who does not know anything about giving birth, anything at all, but they want to be an advocate. So that's the main point. Someone wants to be an advocate.
So for me is connecting again with organizations is really, really important. I do some free breastfeeding sessions. I know a lot of lactation consultants that do free breastfeeding educations. But I think that in the community, it's how I knew that I wanted to breastfeed was like, I think I was about 5 years old and I didn't come from a family of breastfeeders. And I was about 5 years old and I went to what I coined the black school because I couldn't pronounce the title of the name of the school. And I saw this woman breastfeeding, and I was like probably like the little weird kid looking at her like, what is she doing? Like not knowing. And she told me that she was breastfeeding, and that was when I was 4 or 5. So 15 years later, I'm over here wanting to breastfeed because that lady educated me. So I think it's just a little bit of education goes a long, long way. And if we can understand that, the, like they say, you educate a woman and you build a community, you feed a village, right? And so, excuse me, I'm going to my office now. So that for me is knowing that if I can just share with 13-year-olds, if I can just share with young women that about their bodies, empower them to like connect with their bodies on a deeper level, they will understand that your breasts are here for one purpose, and that is to feed your baby. They're not ornamental where you lift them up and decorate them like a Christmas tree. I remember one of my kids was severely lactose intolerant, and that is when it connected with me. Oh, that's what these are for. Because if I don't give him this, he's throwing up across the room on you. And so I think that the community just understanding that one person can make a difference in a whole community. So don't think it's like, it's just me. I can't do this because it's just me. And I've helped my sister breastfeed her 5 children. I've breastfed 6 of mine. And my great niece, my niece breastfed her children. So that is just something that started within our family that wasn't there, you know?
Mm. Oh my goodness, I love this because, like you said, just feed into community, pun intended, for real. And I want to check the chat. Anna shared, just making sure that doulas are up to date with laws protecting women who need to breastfeed at work. That we didn't have this, within our questions, but can you touch on this a little bit because we don't know until someone shares it, as Anna just shared. So thank you for that.
Yes, I work in the DC, Maryland, DC area, and DC has one of the best breastfeeding and postpartum laws. Every state is trying to get on board, but here in DC, people have to have the space to breastfeed. There has to be a space where they can go, not a bathroom, someplace where they have a space to wash their hands, to store their milk, um, and they have to have that space. And so it could be little pods that they have. I've seen some awesome pods set up and stuff like that, but they have to have that space. And a lot of people don't know that. So when I tell my moms that I work with them, let your job know that you're coming back to work and you will be breastfeeding, and there needs to be a space to for you to do that. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you so much for acknowledging that. And we didn't have that question prepared, but again, you won't know until someone else shares it. I love when I walk past the pods in the airport. It warms my heart. I didn't breastfeed our daughter, my wife did, but just knowing that that support is there, and it's just like, yes, thank you. You thankfully and so yeah, overall, I'm just happy that support is there. So I'll go over our next question. There are, as you shared with, there was a mother that you had, and grandma was like, you need the milk. So, what strategies can be used to overcome mistrust in the healthcare system and encourage Black mothers to seek lactation support? Because if they don't have that support at home, where else could they go? So, what strategies can be used to overcome the mistrust?
So mistrust can be not just with family, it can be with hospital staff, it can be with doctors that feel like, oh, this has priority over that golden hour, you know? Lord have mercy. Sorry, I'm trying to get into my space. Um, it can be with doctors that just like feel like, oh, this takes precedent over the golden hour, that initial latch. And I think what's frustrating in that sense is that a lot of people don't understand that the outcome of a child's outcome is actually affected by how soon they latch onto their mom's breast. And so to overcome it is to, again, educate and advocate. In a hospital environment, that's why doulas are so, so important because you'll have the providers, you'll have the doctors, but when doulas are there, they're there for the mom. That is someone that she hired that is there strictly for her. And so that's why, like, I wear a lot of hats. When I go into a hospital space as a traditional midwife, I support people in home birth. But when I go into a hospital space, I'm now their advocate, I'm now their support. And I find that the change of those hats happens very expeditiously. So when I see someone about to violate, I'm like, oh, are we about to do this? This is what we about to do? Okay, okay, let's go. Because your placenta is your placenta. Your delayed cord clamp is your delayed cord clamp, and unless there's an immediate emergency, they're rushing you through so that they can check off boxes. And I think that how you change that is to educate and be patient and not become irate. That will help mistrust on a provider stance. But on a family stance, it is also again educating. So when I have my breastfeeding educations, I tell my moms, tell your mother to come, tell your auntie to come, tell whoever to come because they're gonna learn things. I've had so many every single week when I see families, they're like, dang, they're like this. Is somebody coming after you? Because when I go, I understand what a lip tie or a tongue tie does to breastfeeding. So I'm immediately assessing this baby because my goal is to send my mom home with the ability to know what a good latch feels like, the ability to know how it feels when the baby is latched on and feeding properly, improperly. My goal is to truly send her home able to feed her baby, knowing that I'm not going with her. And if I know that the baby has a tongue tie and a tongue tie can cause a baby to lose more weight and take longer to gain weight back, I'm assessing that. When you go to your first pediatric visit, you need to ask for referral to a pediatric ENT or pediatric dentist so we can get this addressed because we don't want your baby to lose too much weight. So these all affect the
Thank you
process.
for sharing that. I didn't think about going to a pediatric. You said ENT?
Ear, nose, throat. Yep.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, no, sure. Okay, I understand. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. And just leading to our next question, there are common misconceptions about breastfeeding in the Black community. And how do you think we can work toward dispelling them? Because yes, we are in 2024, but some families just have not caught on that, the breast milk is the breast that is there for the baby is the thing that they can use to grow.
I'm sorry, there was a delay. Can you repeat that one more time?
Oh, sorry about that. What are common misconceptions about breastfeeding in the Black community, and how can we work to dispel them?
Got it. Common misconceptions is that your milk is not enough. That is like the biggest misconception. That's the biggest misconception. Your milk is not enough. And how do we explain that? How do I educate my moms that not only is your milk enough, the components of your milk were specifically created for your baby. And there's very few times that your milk isn't enough. And so I think that that is the biggest misconception. That is the biggest challenge on initial breastfeeding. Moms saying that they don't see their milk at the hospital. And I'm always like, well, how much do we expect to see? Because for me, when I go in, I know how to hand express. That's where education comes in. Most people, I'll show you, most people squeeze and push. No, you have to access the ducts and the glands back at the back of your chest wall and squeeze back there so that you can actually help the milk to come out. And it's so simple. That's something that I learned years and years and years ago. But I think that I'm so used to it that I don't really understand why people don't get it. But a lot of people don't get it. And that's again where education comes in. For me, I'm all about preventative. I would much rather prevent an issue than have to come and put out a fire. And that's probably with all of lactation consultants and midwives and doulas. We want to help you before and show you how to prevent the issue from happening, as opposed to kind of coming in and trying to like navigate the process after the fact.
This makes sense, 100%. There are a couple of questions in the chat. I'd love to just
Mhm.
check on that as well. So what breastfeeding support can we put in place? Sorry, I'm just reading. Okay, what breastfeeding support can we put in place as doulas or birth workers for intended parents? But intended parents are parents expecting via surrogate. So what if the intended parent, mommy, wants to induce lactation? How could you support them?
So that is a process that you'd have to really work with someone on because if the mom has not, if the mom has not, or intended parent has not ever been pregnant before, then her body's ability to produce milk is going to take a little bit longer of a process, and you have to work with someone who's educated on that. If this is a woman that has been pregnant before, and your milk starts being produced at 16 weeks. You understand me? And so, yes, it is a little bit of work to have you to relactate you. But if you've been pregnant before and you've gotten past that 16-week mark, it can happen. It's really about your health. I mean, when I support my mamas and my clients, my midwifery clients, I'm educating them on the importance of mom and dad's health. Dad's overall health over that 6 months prior to pregnancy directly affects the components of the placenta. Mom's health, mom and dad need to be in alignment and as one before they create this baby. And that means they need to be eating healthy. They need to create the environment within themselves that is safe and healthy for the baby to grow. And that means emotionally, that means physically, so, that means psychologically. It just means so many things. And I think intention, that's my main word. What is your intent? Is your intent on being a parent? Then who are you now? And who do you want to be as a parent? And how are you building that before you create your child? It's really, really important. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And that just comes with, just bringing your community inside your household first before it's outside. So that makes sense. That makes sense. That's the first thing I thought of. Okay, there are other couple questions in the chat from the guests, and thank you all for being so interactive. I will get to them at the
Yes,
end.
thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'll get to them at the end. I just want to make sure I have these here. So what organizations will you recommend? We kind of touched this on the beginning, outside of books to Black mothers and advocates to help them through their journey. So I remember you mentioned the La Leche League. I'm familiar with that
The
one.
Leche League, yes. In this, the greater DMV area, and DC and Maryland, Virginia, there are many organizations. I worked with Community of Hope, doing their childbirth education for like 3 years. They do breastfeeding 101. I currently am work with Mama Toto Village in the DC area. We provide community breastfeeding educations. There's breastfeeding centers. There are different perinatal health organizations. Really, just kind of like do a search. There are little tiny villages that are popping up in all these different communities to be able to support families. And these villages are including mind, body, spirit support. So they have someone for you to support you emotionally. They have someone to support you physically, and then there's people that are supporting you like on your spiritual journey. Pregnancy is a journey. Infertility is a journey. Birth and labor is a journey. Breastfeeding is a journey. And as long as you can give yourself the space and the grace to understand that you are learning all the way through, and you're doing it for the first time, and maybe you're doing it for the second time. Every pregnancy is different. Every breastfeeding journey is different.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. And now this is my next question is big for me. Some women may not be able to produce enough milk and are often discouraged by what they see on social media. Through your experience, how can you help this mom and what words of love would you give her? And it's big because social media is, oh my goodness, full of comparison.
It is a blessing and a curse.
Hmm.
Lord have mercy. So social media. When you see women pumping these 8-ounce bottles, 6-ounce bottles of milk, you don't know her backstory. You don't know how many times she's been pregnant. You don't know if she's a super producer. I know there's a doula that's very, very popular. I love her. I've been following her for years. She produces a whole ton of milk. And I tell my moms, please do not compare yourself to anybody on social media. This is not a race. It is a journey for you and your baby. Your body's going to produce what your baby needs as long as you are getting your baby at that breast every time the baby needs to feed. Like think about it like this: what goes in must come out. So when I talk to my mamas, what are you putting in you? Every time you feed your baby, are you drinking something and having a snack? You know what I'm saying? Think about your baby. How much your baby drinks when people say, "Oh, I'm worried the baby's not getting," when they're on the hospital level. I'm worried the baby's not getting enough. And I'm like, okay, well, is the baby peeing and pooping? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, the baby's getting something because that wouldn't be happening if the baby wasn't getting anything. I mean, yes, our bodily fluids do happen, but the babies have to be activated by the mom's colostrum and the mom's milk. And so I think social media is a beautiful thing because it allows me to do what I'm doing and get out evidence-based information, right? But then there are a lot of people out there providing information that is not exactly evidence-based. It's based upon their own experience. And experience, what was that song? Experience is a good teacher. Experience is a good teacher, but at the end of the day, that's your experience. That's not everybody's experience. An older mom maybe like 40 some odd, 42, 43 years old. Moms are getting older and older because they're trying to make sure that they've achieved all that they want to, right? She might have a harder time with her milk onset, right? She had to work to actually go and get in vitro for her baby. So her body hormonally is in one space of like, yeah, we trying to just deactivate all of this. But mom is like, no, 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 I want a baby before it's too late. And so you have to factor in that age does. Yes, you can have a baby older, but age does affect the hormonal process. And birth and pregnancy is all hormonal. It's hormonal.
Thank you for that breakdown so much because we know, like you said, social media is a blessing and a curse. And
Hmm.
comparisons come from, and then people, they choose a different route. But thank you
Exactly.
so much. Okay, wonderful. So
Hmm.
now we're talking about, a Black mom actually experiencing difficulty. So what are
Hmm.
some signs that you would see, like, baby not pooping and peeing, or her mentally? How could you tell that she is actually going through something difficult?
So I think the biggest one of the things that people say at the hospital, oh, feed baby on demand, right? And even with all the educating that I do with repeat clients, I just had this happen to me 2 weeks ago. I send my mom home. She had her baby. I educated her, and I'm checking in on her, and she's like, "Oh yeah." I said, "Well, how?" I said, "How's the baby doing? How's the baby feeding?" "Oh, she's just sleepy." I said, "Well, are you feeding her about eight?" We say 8 or more in 24. You got to feed your baby 8 times or more in a 24-hour period. And she said, "No, maybe about five." Ma'am, what? What are you talking about? And so that is really, really key. Your baby's only way, you've been doing everything for your baby. So feeding on demand there is actually not necessarily a good thing because some babies don't demand. Why? Because if they don't have the energy from getting fed, then they don't have the energy to exert to demand that they need food. Got it? Because they're too tired. They don't have the energy. It's kind of like you trying to go and do a 3-mile walk and you haven't eaten anything or drank anything for your body, and your body doesn't have that energy. You're exerting energy that's not there. It's like getting in a car with no gas, riding on fumes, like I say, like I do sometimes. So signs that breastfeeding might not be going well. Your baby might be getting onto the breast and feeding for like 45 minutes and then it's coming off and still be hungry, right? Your baby is not peeing or pooping. Your baby is crying. Yes, babies do cry, but babies actually have they tell you what reasons they're crying. They're crying because they're sleepy. They're crying because they're gassy. They're crying because they have to poop. They're crying because they have poop on them or pee on them. They're crying for multiple reasons. There's multiple reasons that they'll cry, but it's about five top reasons that they cry. And when you think about all of those, you kind of like, okay, well, did I feed her? Did I change her? Soothe her? Did I burp her after feeding? Because tie creates a space where air to get in the gut. When air gets in the gut, then all of a sudden the baby is gassy and the air needs to come out. Early hunger cues are important for you to catch because as soon as a baby cries, that is air. And babies always have fluid on their belly, right? And in their belly. But when you mix air with fluid, what do you get? A bubble, right? So when they eat and the food lands on top of their bubble, two things happen. They don't feel the food hit their gut. And if that bubble doesn't come out in a burp or a fart, all of a sudden it sits there and then it'll come up as curdled milk or it'll come up after, you know what I'm saying? It'll come up after the fact. So paying attention to early hunger cues, paying attention to if your baby is eating 8 times or more in 24, what does that turn to? If they're eating 8 times a day, they're eating every 3 hours. If they're eating 10 times a day, 10 to 12 times a day, they're eating every 2 to 1.5 hours. We're happy if they're getting 8 feeds, but a good feed means that when they got them hangry hands like this, that as they feed, their hands gradually relax, and then all of a sudden they're satiated. But if they're not and they come off your breast after a long feed, then something's happening. It may not be a good milk transfer happening. It's not a deep enough latch. So that's where you want to kind of like pay attention and get the help. Ask for the help early. Don't wait. Don't wait. Because I'll tell you this, our expectation is that your baby is going to be born at, say, 7 pounds. They're going to lose a little bit of weight in that first 5 days. And then on day 5, they're going to start gaining that weight back. By that 2 week visit, we want them pediatric visit, we want them back at their birth weight. By 1 month, we want them to have gained about 2 pounds. If they come in a little bit lower than that, we're not too upset. But if they come substantially lower, then that's when all these interventive measures will be brought in.
This makes so much sense. As a parent now, it's like, okay, the doctor was asking me these reasons. Well, how many pounds was baby when they were born? Okay,
Mhm.
good. We had a good stance right now. I feel like this should be an elective in college. Like we don't know
I
these things.
promise you, the things that we get in college is, they're not teaching us things that we need in life. I mean,
Mhm.
a woman needs to know how to feed her baby. Like I always think to myself, I didn't, because I guess, me and the other lactations consultants at the hospital, we talk, we like, darn, how much support we didn't have, right? And then we think, gosh, like if it was a matter of life and death, could you figure out how to get your baby on your breast? Could you? Like, would you work a little bit harder? I think that's so, so important that, you got to figure it out and you got to give yourself space and grace to do it. Don't, sometimes the worst moms to work with are those overachieving moms, honey, the ones that got straight A's that did all this wonderful thing. And they're like, this is not, because social media makes it look like, and breastfeeding and birth has been so sensationalized and romanticized that they make it look like, oh, the baby comes out after 3 screams and 2 pushes and the baby gets right on breast. Promise you, that's really not the case. You know what I'm saying? It takes a little bit of work.
Right. It makes
Mhm,
100% sense.
mhm.
100%. Okay, cool. So I'm at my last question, and I love the chat right now. So is it safe to buy breast milk from another mom? Are there specific precautions we should think about?
So here's the thing. Donor milk, um, I can't not say if it's safe from every mom. You know what I'm saying? Because you have people that are on medications, you have people that are self-medicating, you have people that have underlying health issues that can be transferred through bodily fluid, which milk is, right? Milk is made and built in some ways from the mom's blood system, right? And so I think that it's really, really important that you are careful when you do go look into getting donor milk. I know that when you get them from organizations, there's a certain process that's in place that they get information from the moms, and some places test, but sometimes it's like a evaluation that's done. But I know that there's also moms are sharing their milk. I know midwives that have done it, that are overproducers and done it, but like we know their health background. You know what I'm saying? So like you kind of want to know, have that, but it has been definitely a lifesaver until a mom's supply kicks in, or for those moms who have a lower supply. Maybe they have insufficient glandular tissue and they have an inability to make enough milk or any milk for their babies. Maybe they have their nipple pierced and they have scar tissue blocking their orifices and their pores in their breast and they can't get any milk out. All these things are factors. So these are all things that we kind of like look at and want our moms to know.
Yeah, that makes I didn't even think about a nipple piercing. Like that can like you
Oh
can get that
Lord.
in your early
Hmm.
20s, late teens, and
And
then
ain't nobody piercing word about you breastfeeding. They
no,
not. They just trying to get that nipple, that in your nipple. And trust me, some people have scar tissue. Some people actually keloid, just like they keloid on the surface of their skin, they're keloid internally. And that can be an issue.
understandable. Okay, thank you for sharing. I'm gonna think double like the next time I see that. Like, okay, is that an
Mhm.
option I want? Who knows? Okay, so there's a question further up, and this is a very good question. How can we encourage teens to breastfeed? Small background. My mom had me at 16, and
Mhm.
my daughter was breastfed, and she was like, I wish I would have done it, but they just gave you formula.
Yep. So you could be my daughter, right?
Right.
And my own experience was that, and back in the day, the thing was if the nurses liked you, they gave you extra bags with the Similac in it and all of this stuff, right? And things have changed now because they're not supposed to be promoting formula. At a baby friendly hospital, it's supposed to be breast first, breast formula still on deck, right? Is that's where, for me, ideally in a perfect world, I would love to be able to educate teenagers, not only just about breastfeeding, but about their body, about the control that they have and the intention that they have to put forth to before they have their baby. You know what I'm saying? Like there are women that have been young ladies that have been sexually abused, and they see no value in their body because what they had was taken from them, right? And so they're a little bit more, open to being sexually, adventurous because that prize that we talk about, their virginity was taken from them without anybody asking. And so I think that when we talk about educating, we have to educate them and check in on them about their bodies first, because let me tell you something, sexual abuse can actually be triggered by breastfeeding, right? Childbirth can trigger sexual abuse memories. And so, yeah, we want to talk about that. We want to talk about, like, what your experience. That's what I do when I take on clients, midwifery clients. I take them on. I talk to them about what their background is. I need a backstory so that I can know how I can truly support you the way that you want to be supported. But teenagers, one, if they see it in their household, like my own experience, my sister saw me. I helped her with her first breastfeeding journey. She had her daughter. My niece breastfed her babies. My niece reached out to me when she had a breastfeeding issue. So when they see it, it's an example for them to want to do, mimic. And so that is really, really important. But for those that don't see it, sometimes social media is good for. I think moms, should she be breastfeeding her more than giving her the bottle? And I loved it. And I saw the mom roll her eyes and I was like, don't be mad, sweetie. Don't be mad. Don't be mad, because let me tell you something. I see enough families, especially our melanated families, that they don't have a supportive partner present ever at the hospital. And to trust me, that's your teammate right there, because he's going to help you. I have my dads take pictures, or my partners take pictures of, once we get the baby in the optimal position, take a picture of that. You see how close that baby's cheek is to her breast? You see that this is her breast, this is the baby's cheek. You shouldn't be seeing no parts of the side of the baby's mouth, because then that means they may not have a deep latch, right? So take a picture of that. Memorize this moment and make sure that when you're sitting around and she's breastfeeding, peek in on her. Make sure you push baby a little bit closer to her breast. So that's how I help my partners support their love, because like, they both want the best for their baby. They created the baby, so they want the best for their baby. So that's how I bring them in on that process. You get the baby ready to feed, change baby diapers, swaddle the baby, or hand the baby to mom. Baby feeds baby, mom feeds baby, hand the baby back to you. Dad births baby. Baby has skin to skin with dad, and or a partner, and that's what it is. That's teamwork make the dream work, right?
I'm smiling because that's literally how the process is.
Mm-hmm.
When I became a parent, it was like, let's double team this. Let's go from here.
Yes.
And you said something, it was in the chat, that breastfeeding can be very triggering for rape survivors.
Yeah.
How,
Yes.
so how would you, I'm very confident within your years
Mhm.
experience, how have you guided, a Black mom specifically through this journey if she's a rape survivor?
Right. So there's certain sensations, and I'm gonna say this, it can not only be triggering for the mom,
Hmm.
some dads actually have their own underlying issues with the mom breastfeeding the baby. Because for them, there's some ownership and equity in her breast that belongs to them. So sometimes when they see the baby feed, they're like, they're mine. You know what I'm saying? Now I gotta share with this little one right here. But in terms of how I've guided women through, there's a particular sensation that happens when a baby's at your breast. Babies don't suck in the same way as your love sucks, right? It's a more intense and intentional, like, I'm trying to get this food out, suck. But it does create the same sensation through your body, right? And so sometimes people whose sacral chakra, sometimes people who have not healed from like whatever sexual experiences that they've had that was violating of them, sometimes they feel a sensation and it feels wrong, and they don't know how to, like, navigate that. And I always say to them, please know that this process was created to ensure that your baby got the exact amount of everything that they need in your milk. Do you know, when you kiss your baby on the forehead, that kiss actually communicates to your body that your baby needs something, and your body creates that? And so it's literally just, it's so amazing. Like, I just got chills just thinking about, like, how as adults, when we get kissed by a loved one on our forehead, that speaks to our third eye and does something throughout our body, imagine what that does to the baby. So it carries into our adulthood. And so I'm always educating my mamas on like this is strictly what your breasts were made for. This is what your breasts were made for. We have learned to decorate them up and lift them up and decorate them and put all the bells and the whistles on them for, as a matter of fact, let's just talk about it. Breasts are used to sell everything from cars to clothes, everything. So body lotions and stuff. They're used to sell everything, but then when people see them being used what they were intended for, all of a sudden it's a problem. Like I can't breastfeed in person, in public, but a woman could be damn near naked selling a car, and it's okay. So I think that that's for me like I just education, stop, like yours. I was very intentional because I never saw my mom's body. And so I never know like what was normal, and even though we had different body shapes. So when I had my daughters, I was very, very, very intentional about, like not always covering up when they came into my room, especially when they busted, all the kids I got, they busted in the room. You don't got to close door policy, but you're going to see what you're going to see if you don't knock, so knock, because that'll save us both, but I let them see my body so that they understand that this is your developmental process. I mean, yeah, like my breasts used to be perky like yours, but now because of you, they hang a little bit. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. But I want them to not feel as though like when I was that little kid watching this woman breastfeed, I was just like enamored at like, wow, like I didn't know that was something that happened. So like that to me made me make a mental note. 15 years later, I was breastfeeding my first child. So, I think that um, navigating sexual abuse or trauma is really, really important that the conversation is had. Breastfeeding does feel a particular way. There's certain sensations that happen. It's not the same as when your partner is on your breast, but you might be triggered. And I want you to be aware of that. And it's okay. It's something that you just kind of need to work through, you know?
Mm. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I am a girl mom. So my daughter, she
Mhm.
sees my breasts. She's like,
Yep.
oh, how come I don't look like you? I said, girl, just give it a minute.
I'll just give it a minute, honey.
Give it a minute. So I have those open conversations, and I'm
Yeah.
thankful I do. So this is making 100% sense to me. Now there's so many resources. We're coming toward our clip. We're about 10 minutes in. Um,
Hmm.
there's so many resources when I say like tangible things to purchase when it comes to
Mm.
breastfeeding. What would you, because we don't want to spend a lot of money. Like I remember we went to Target. This is for my wife. She bought some nipple guards, and
Nipple
they
shields, yep.
nipple shields. Yeah. And she was like, these things are crap. And we spent like $12 on it. And
Because she probably don't know how to put them on though.
that
Because
part,
there's little hacks and tricks.
that
But let
part.
me tell you, if I had to tell somebody to get something,
Thank you. That's what I was going for.
I'm gonna tell you two things. The Haka, Haakkaa. It is a manual milk collector. But let me tell you, if your breasts get clogged, there's so many different hacks. You can YouTube Haka hack, and you just be amazed at all the things that come up. And a good pump. Like to me, like I worked for an organization called Military Moms for a very short period of time, but I was trained on probably about 10, 12 pumps, right? Um, and when I was trained on them, now since those pumps, there's probably about 15, 20 more new pumps since I was trained on all these pumps. But get you a good pump. And now I just want to say this. Everybody loves the idea of those wearable pumps and putting them in. They are not as strong as the plug-in. They are not as strong. My favorite pump is the Spectra, right? They're not as strong. And what happens is because they're not as strong, what will happen is if you rely on that as your only pump, then you will see changes in your milk supply that maybe aren't necessarily what your supply would be because you need a pump that has a good suction and a good pull so that you can maintain a certain level of supply. Those pumps are really kind of like when you're out and about doing, like running around, or maybe you work from home and you just want to be able to pump and not miss a pump. They're good for that, but you really want to have a good, steady, standard pump that you have that is the Spectra to me is interesting because Medela makes the hospital pumps, but their home pump isn't as strong as their hospital pump. And Spectra is actually the stronger pump to me. Yeah. And it's easy to use.
Thank you for that. I was literally going to say, what is
You're welcome.
and if you can
Mhm.
add a little bit more, what is the starter pack? If I want to support a
Yeah.
breastfeeding mom, she doesn't have anything. What should I get her? So I have the
Yeah.
We love the Hakas.
Yeah.
And it's
The
12.99.
hot and Haka, yeah. Just I'm sorry to interrupt you. Haka has this they have colostrum collectors. Now, hey, easy, easy, easy. Because I have had to remove myself from pages because people were collecting colostrum so early. Now listen, if you're gonna collect colostrum, please let it be after 37 weeks. And I say that because we do not want you to trigger uterine contractions, which can happen, right? And don't use a pump when you're collecting colostrum. But for instance, I had a mom that I supported who had a very hard time with her first baby, and so she was really, really concerned because she gave up breastfeeding very early. So I helped her collect some colostrum, which showed me her flow. I educated on how to do it, and she's successfully breastfeeding. And she said to me, "Thank you so much because I literally was able to give my baby my milk from the beginning, and they were concerned about her like sugar levels and stuff like that. So she had collected, we harvested a couple of vials of colostrum. And so Haka makes these little colostrum collectors. I think they come in packs of 3, but Haka has a little bundle that you can get a few things with, and I love them. You know, I don't get paid from them, but I love them because they're just very useful and they don't feel mechanical. You know, their product doesn't feel mechanical. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Yes, and it's so affordable. Now, I
Very
remember
affordable. Yep.
what colostrum is. If someone doesn't know what colostrum is, may you just educate them.
Yes. So colostrum is the first milk, the pre-milk, right? So colostrum is filled with all these beautiful and wonderful antibodies that your everything that your body has ever protected you from, it's in colostrum, right? And so you have colostrum, you start producing milk or colostrum, I'll just say that, from 16 weeks, right? Your baby's actually born with colostrum in their belly, a little bit of colostrum in their belly, right? But for the first 3 to 4 days, you have colostrum, right? And it really depends upon, which pregnancy this is for you. It just really depends. Some women's colostrum is like a golden, we call it the golden milk. It's like really, really golden and looks like it's just really yellowish gold, right? Some women's is a little bit clearer. It just really depends. Every breast milk is different, right? Looks different. But you have that, and it has all the components that your body has ever protected you from. And I don't know if this is a good analogy, but if you think about regular Tide and Tide Pods, colostrum would be Tide Pods. It's like that power, extra strength. You know what I'm saying? And so it's really important that I tell my moms, I don't care what you do, if you got to put on a spoon, put in a syringe, put it on your finger, get your baby as much colostrum as possible, right? And then when you get home and it's flowing a little bit freely, save a couple in your freezer. So when baby goes back to daycare or to the babysitter, if they ever get sick, you can defrost it and give them the colostrum, and it's the best thing for them. It'll actually heal them immediately. And I'm telling you that from experience. I've had people have COVID, and grown people took some of their family members' colostrum and knocked it out. So you ain't hear it from me, but you heard it from me. So
Yes, I put the kit in the chat.
yeah,
We didn't have these kits. We didn't have that one.
girl, right? Listen, I
Okay.
know they just popped up. I'm like, yeah, I'm not mad at it.
Agreed. I love it. Oh my God, I'm so thankful for this conversation.
Hmm.
And oh my goodness, there was one more question that I had specifically about products. But and then okay, so outside of, we have the Haka, we have the Spectrum. I put that in the chat. And
Hmm.
some women they leak outside of, home.
Hmm.
What would you recommend to, I guess, is it timing? What would you recommend to help you with your leakage?
So before you leave, so this is what you want. Understand that a lot of women experience these situations where they're like stressed the heck out. Stress can impede breastfeeding, right? And so one, you have to be really intentional. You want to get all the things that you need. You want to get you some breast pads. Before you leave the house, feed your baby, right? If your baby is on a 2 or 3 hour feeding schedule, then you got 2 or 3 hours to do your mommy care, get your nails done, whatever it is, but you have 2 or 3 hours, right? One thing I want to touch on is not a question, but I think it's really important that we discuss this. Before you put your nipples away after you feed your baby, please, please, please make sure that they are completely air dry, not sticky to touch. Why? Because now you put a damp nipple away in a dark place, then you have darkness and moisture that can create bacteria, growth bacteria. Okay. So a lot of people don't realize that they just tuck their breasts away and then they end up with a little yeast infection on their breast, or thrush on their breast. And it's because of how they've been kind of like handling themselves. Got to make sure it's completely air dried so that you can put it away dry and not put it away moist. Change out your nipple pads. Get the disposable. Well, they have reusable ones you can wash as well. Yep. And then yep, you can get yeast infections. Yep. And but let me see. I forgot you. I'm sorry. I just jumped on topic. What was your last thing? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you want to address, put your nipples
Yeah.
away because, just
Yeah. Yeah.
yeast infections can
Because I
develop.
see that a lot, and I want people to know, like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I see now that I think about it, I see it as well. Women feed, and especially when they're in public, because where's your shame?
Hmm.
You
Of
know,
course. Yeah, you could blow them in, like just blow under the blanket. Yeah.
that makes sense. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I think those are all of my questions. Does anyone else have maybe one or two more questions before we end? Yes, Juanita, please.
Hi, I'm sorry. This was so informative. I want to thank you so much. I didn't hear you. I wasn't sure what was the name of one of the organizations you said. You said I let you lead, or I couldn't hear.
Oh, La Leche League. La Leche League. They're one of the oldest breastfeeding organizations.
Okay.
Very yeah. The La Leche League.
Oh, the Leche
You
League.
know,
Gotcha. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yep.
When I
And
send out,
just look, like
I'll add it. Sorry, Jamie. When I'll
yeah,
let you.
that's okay.
Oh yeah, I'll
Thank
add
you.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you were going to say just, search your local area, see if there's
Yeah,
anyone.
search your local area, connect. I mean, because there's a lot of like I said, a lot of little villages popping up. Please connect with them. These organizations are amazing, and they're trying to cover you. They're trying to cover you mind, body, spirit. They're trying to really create so when you think about people that are pregnant, a lot of them feel like they're in it alone. They're going through a lot of things, maybe hyperemesis, where they're just throwing up constantly in the beginning of pregnancy. And that affects your nutritional intake or what you're able to, like your baby's growth, and then you get intrauterine growth restrictions, all these things that affect the breastfeeding journey, right? So why not connect, be intentional about saying, you know what, like I want the best outcomes. So I'm going to find a support system, and I'm going to find a little village. And they usually put you in a cohort with other women that are pregnant and due around the same time as you. And then now you have your little nucleus of your village, and you guys check in on each other. Like I used to work for Community of Hope in DC, it's the only birth center in DC. And I did their childbirth education for like 3 years. And I had such great success with my moms. They were just like so prepared for their pregnancies, and for their labors and deliveries. And they were just like, they couldn't wait. One just popped up, and I work for a whole other organization. One just popped up, and I'm like, don't I know you? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, I was like, didn't I work this little baby right here? And she's like, yeah. So it's interesting because, like as long as I'm birth work is my work, my life work. And so be intentional about how you plan your pregnancy, or just get on top of it. I don't care where you are. Get the knowledge. It's out there. So many people offering it for free. So get the knowledge, but make sure it's some evidence-based knowledge, but find you an organization that aligns with you spiritually, and get that knowledge because it's out there.
Thank you so much, Jamie. We're pretty much coming to
You're
an end.
welcome.
I'm smiling. It's bringing me back to when my daughter was an infant, and getting the knowledge. It was so like we were prepared. Like we knew every step, and if we had questions, we knew where to turn. So thank you so much. And it
Yeah.
seems like some birth workers in the chat.
I see my sister-in-law's in the chat. Hey, Cats. She's a doctor. She's a nurse. She's a doctor, and she's amazing. And she just told me that she wrote her master's paper on the benefits of breastfeeding. I'm like, okay, now you need to send that over here to me so I can read through your paperwork. But yes, it's been my pleasure, and I thank you so much. And I'm so happy to see everybody that joined, and I'm glad that you got good information. I'm always about educating. I'm an educator at heart first before anything.
That is what we're here for. And I'm just sending love to everyone on their journey. If they're looking to be an advocate, looking to help, when moms are, when I find out, a family member, a loved one is pregnant, I don't think about the infant clothes. I don't go for the clothes. For me,
Mm-hmm.
it's either books, or I ask them, are you looking for meds?
Yes.
So think about that.
Girl, thrifting is the best way to get some books. Like I just went through my library and fixed it, and I was like, "Oh, now I'm gonna get this one away." I always buy duplicates because I'm like, and people are like, "Oh," when I go back to them, like after they had the baby, they're like, "Oh, here's your book," and I'm like, "That's for you. That's for you. Keep that book." You know what I'm saying? I feel like I want you to have as much information. If not, pass it on to somebody else you feel like can benefit from it.
That's what it is. Pass it along. So thank you so much, everyone. We are done for today. And
Thank you all for joining.
Yes, for sure. On behalf of the Holding Space, we appreciate serving you because we don't get this information if we don't ask or if an organization like ours is not offering it. So I look forward to delivering future events to you all, and I'll be sure to send out that recording. Okay.
Right. I forgot WIC. WIC also breastfeeding support. Yeah.
Yes. I
Somebody
saw
said that in the chat, and I forgot to bring. I wanted to bring that up. Yep.
Yep. Clarissa shared that they provide free pumps, which
Yeah.
I really believe not everyone takes advantage of. You know.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell your friend to tell a friend that
Tell a friend exactly.
WIC definitely
Exactly.
those services, and I'm hoping, and I know in New York City that doulas are about, if they passed the law already, that doulas would
For
be
Medicare,
yeah,
or
yes,
Medicaid. Yep. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, same thing. It's trending. I think it's going to be a thing. Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
hope so. Shout out to the birth workers. We appreciate you all.
Everybody deserves a doula. Somebody for them. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your
Bye,
day.
everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.